What's up, agents, and welcome back to another Division video where we've just landed on the Red Horizon PTS. Plenty to check out. Don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe. Let's get straight into it. As we always do with the PTS, we have created a brand new character to get all of the gear to have a look at and see what we are in for next season. The gear screen actually looks a little bit light, and that's because we've got a gear set and no new brand set this season. So there's that to think about as well. But obviously they said they're going to add more named pieces. And as you can see, here's the rushdown, the trick shot, the keeper. You know, so we have a bunch of things coming in. We've got all the guns to check out. For some reason, it's giving me a Caduceus. Love the look of the Fafnir. But yeah, let's, instead of jumping around and having a look, let's see what we have got. So the new season modifier is here, and it looks like, yes, so a nice improvement to the PTS this season. They have given us everything already. Everything's already purchased, so we don't actually have to grind anything out. And if we go into the modifiers after the okay, so it doesn't look like the active modifiers are leveled up, but at least we have the option to play with all of the passives. So that is pretty good. And we'll go through them in a little bit more detail in just a moment. First of all, though, we're going to head over to the tinkering station, because what's always good about the tinkering station is you never know. Sometimes we get a little bit of a surprise. So we're going to go into them one by one. So we've got the teapot, which we know about that, and we'll check that out when we go through the gear. Assault rifles is just one as well, and that is the steamer, which we know about. 2 marksman rifles, the incendiar, which I don't think we know about that, which is pretty interesting, and the prima donna, which is just mine. We know about that for a long time. I've just not been proficient with it yet. So the incendiar, I didn't see that. The Fafnir in the shotguns, which makes sense. 2 pistols. The Rabid, which is legacy now. We know I've already got that. I only saw 1 in there, though. That's odd. Oh, no, it is just 1. Not odd at all. So then body armor. So we've got the named pieces. The Iron Will. The Rushdown. The Trick Shot. All pieces that we know about already. Backpacks. The Apollo. We know about that. And the keeper, we know about that. And that lines all that up. Skills all at the same as expected. And then gear sets, we've got the Ember engine, which we know about. So yeah, so the only gun that we don't really know about, unless I missed it in the patch notes and I can't remember, is the Incendiar, which you would imagine we're going to get this season, because that Incendiar kind of means fire to me. I don't know about you guys. Maybe it's going to be the next classified assignment mission, and that would probably be my guess. All right, so next up, let's take a quick look at how the modifiers turned out. Fire Rate Aura, when activate, gain the damage resistance buff that is increased while sprinting. Enemies near you receive burn status effect the first time that they get within its area of effect. And that just seems like a get out of jail free card a little bit. 30-second duration. Pressure gauge value. 25% damage resistance. Sprinting damage resistance is also 25. So I guess they're stacking it. I'll give you a total of 50. Burn radius and burn duration. And then as we level it up, you actually get armor repair as well. That's actually pretty good that it's not increasing these stats. It's actually giving you an extra stat. Unless it does increase them as well as it levels up, because it's not ready yet. It doesn't look like it's populating that side. Hitting a headshot on an enemy that is on fire applies burn to all enemies within a radius from the headshot enemy. Burn damage is reduced for the duration of the modifier. And then headshots set enemies on fire for a shorter cooldown. Sign shield delivered while active increased signature weapon range and damage. So are we really going to be able to have that flamethrower like the bad guys have? As well as shield health and shield active regen. Killing enemies with a signature weapon or while using a shield refills the magazine without consuming ammo from the reserve. So a flamethrower with the shield out might be the play. And we can extend the duration down here by leveling it up. So pretty interesting. I think they look pretty good. The hostile modifiers, the draining presence. While the enemy is closer than 7 meters, lose 10% of your magazine and 1% of your gauge every second. Set the enemy on fire to permanently remove this modifier from the enemy and gain the lost gauge back. Then we got Achilles heel. After breaking any of this enemy's weak points or armor pieces, they will heal 50% to themselves or and all allies within 10 meters. This is pretty rough. You'll also lose 10% of your pressure gauge for every armor weak point broken on this enemy. Set enemies on fire to permanently remove it as the other one. That sounds like that could be really, really rough. Each time an enemy hits you, lose 1% of your pressure gauge and get a stacking 0.5% outgoing damage reduction debuff for 15 seconds, which refreshes on subsequent hits. And that sounds like that could be really rough as well, to be honest. Definitely going to be interesting. It doesn't feel like you're actually going to be able to play unless you're actually setting things on fire. And I know that sounds a little bit stupid, but it is very forceful in the way that it's going to actually make it so you have to engage with these modifiers if you've got them on, because you're going to have some kind of build that is doing fire type damage. So then we've got pressure at the top, tools, so just pressure and tools. So each pressure gauge filling action yields an extra 10% of its own value. Earn 25% pressure gauge per action, but decays occur at a 50% pace. Pressure gauge decay occurs at 25% lower. Pressure gauge decay occurs at 50% slower, but the pressure gauge gains a reduced 20% for all actions. Okay. Pressure gauge decay begins after a long time. Huh? How long's a long time? Couple of years? Pressure gauge effects are now applied at the following thresholds. Active modifiers can now be used at a 10% lower threshold than normal. So that, yeah, that changes these ones down here. Pressure gauge decay is no longer stopped by staying in cover or during cover-to-cover movements. Okay. Pressure gauge gains are improved by 50% from all actions. Well, I kind of like this one. I kind of like this one, actually, because that means that we don't have to have the in-cover playstyle. We can just use this one. Pressure gauge no longer decays. Pressure gauge gains are reduced by 50%. I mean, that's not bad either. That's not bad either. The base bonus of the pressure gauge is now signature weapon damage instead of status effects. Equipping this at the same time as the new formula gamma nullifies both effects. So I assume that means we can't have both of these on together. The base bonus of the pressure gauge is now has pro instead of status effect. Yeah, okay, so you can't have them on together. After using an active modifier, the pressure gauge resets to 20%. Gauge bonuses below 80% are reduced to 0. Gauge bonuses above 80% are increased by 25% of their value. Equipping this at the same time as Kickstart nullifies. That's interesting. And then kickstart gauge bonuses are above 80% are reduced to 0. Gauge bonuses below 80% are increased by 50% of their value. Okay. So that just means you have to use your gauge though before you hit 80%. And then we've got tools last. Up to 4 of enemies affected by pulse have a 30% chance to burn. We love this. Welcome back, microwave coils. Then we've got a modifier which I'm really interested in trying out that actually affects our specialization weapon, the flamethrower. So it gets 100% damage, minus 50% rate of fire, minus 50% spread, but the range is up 100%, and we equip it 25% faster. When picking up specialization ammo, the picked up quantity is doubled. This could be pretty lethal when it comes to tip of the spear as well. Get movement speed for killing burnt enemies. Set enemies on fire while using skills. While in combat, being affected by burn boosts, burn damage by 50% for 30 seconds. The concussion, flashbang and cluster grenades receive 100% effective radius and apply a 2-second burn. That's pretty nice. Using an armor kit also grants 100% bonus armor for 40 seconds and replenishes 100% of your shield's max health. Armor kit quick use grants 25% bonus armor for 20 seconds and replenishes 50% of your shield's max health. So it does really feel like they want us to be behind a shield. A little bit odd that you've got all of the sets here in the image. Alright, so let's take a look. The Fafnir looks very, very, very nice. This weapon fires dragon breath shells. Each shot has a 10% chance of applying burn to the enemy. An enemy cannot be applied burn if they're already burning. We know that. Weapon damage is amped by 30% of your status effect bonus. Then we've got the steamer, which gives us perfect boiling point. The first 75% of your magazine will have minus 100% crit chance. The rest will have 100, but I feel like that, along with the teapot having the same talent, it's probably DOA. We saw a different version of it on the stream, which was OP. This seems to have been taken the opposite way. Next up, we've got the Ember engine set, which we'll take a look at it starting at the chest piece because that has the talent. So we get skill efficiency from the 2-piece. 3-piece gets status effects. And then the 4-piece has the spontaneous combustion. Every status effect you apply has a 20% chance of also applying burn to the enemy. If the status effect initially applied was burn, the enemy will receive 25% more burn damage for the duration. But we can increase the chance of applying burn all the way up to 40%. The backpack gives us the talent increase the duration of the burn damage debuff of spontaneous combustion by 50%. Pretty crazy. Taking a look at the other backpack, we've got the new named Araldi backpack that has perfect concussion. Increase weapon damage by 20% for marksman rifles. Then we've got the Keeper with perfect protector. When your shield is damaged, you gain 25% bonus armor and all other allies gain 35% bonus armor. Looking at the chest pieces, we've got the Rushdown, which comes on the R&K set with perfect tag team. The Trick Shot, which is the new Imminent Armaments named piece. As you can see here, the new bonuses have also been applied with perfectly reassigned. And then we've got the Iron Will, which comes with headshot damage and weapon handling by default, but it gives us the determined style buff. Your next body shot will be considered a headshot. The cooldown is 1 second. I'm sure I've seen it 2 at some point, but it has to be marksman rifles, rifles, or pistols. And just to take a quick look at something like that as well, I'm going to just dive into my stash and hopefully we can see some items there that we know have changed a little bit. So for instance, we know tipping scales did get a change, but I can't remember exactly what it was. But let's just take a look at, come on. So then your Wyvern here is now skill damage. Zeodoka having the rifle damage at 24% with the magazine size. Equalizer now with the 24% damage buff, which is kind of nice. Cheska now has the shotgun damage on. All pretty crazy stuff. And what I was really looking for was, if I can find it, it might be on my main character. Yeah, it looks like it was. I was looking for my Langmore stuff just to see how that looked now. But there's no need to run 3-piece Langmore anymore, which is pretty crazy change. The Robin here with LMG damage. You know, so that then puts that in a, you know, yeah, that's a, yeah. Some really interesting options here, and I can't wait to figure out what's been going on. But we'll deep dive into some of the other stuff a little bit later on. The Iron Will probably be my first look to see how good that really is, because you're losing Headhunter if you're running that. But that is going to be it for the video. I hope you have a good time on the PTS this weekend. Be sure to check out the channel for everything if you don't get time to test it yourself. And I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.